Welcome everyone to the 184th, 84th weekly live stream.
Wow.
Yeah, today we got the ever lovely Ellie Claw,
Hello.
and we got a little Princess Fluffy's Eye.
Hello.
And of course, the ever living yet dead, living dead.
Brains.
Brain.
It's the same rules as always. What?
We got quite a lot of art today. It's an art-filled week. You guys have been busy.
But not busy in the way of making critique.
Come on, if you can make art, you can critique art.
Do it.
I thought you said earlier that they did have a lot of critique on it. Was that different places?
Well,
There's a few
yes
other
and
posts.
no.
Yeah.
There was actually like a lot of pictures this week, and some did get critique more than usual. But yes, and Gallon would definitely like their art critiqued.
Okie dokie. Do you have any questions in particular that were not addressed on the Discord?
Oh, and I can draw again this week. Yay.
They're not watching, so they said we can do others first. But I asked them if they had any questions.
Not watching. Hey, DJ David. Hello.
Hello.
More art. Alright, then.
Oh, they are watching the stream.
Okay, let's do their picture.
Alright.
More help with the anatomy. I don't see anatomy issues. Like, the way you've built up your anatomy makes a lot of sense for how it is. I do have a sort of complaint about the wings. You've done sort of smallish wings generally for the stretched anatomy, but when they're curled up, they're itty bitty.
Mm-hmm.
Like if we take the pectoral, I think that's the top feather. If we take that and sort of superimpose it over it, that's going to be reaching all the way down to the bottom. So my suggestion, stretch that thing out. If we're already doing this gorgeous coloring, shading, anatomy going on here, keep the rest sort of consistent with it. Do we post images to be critiqued to the Discord or here? You can fire it here. You can fire it in the Discord. You could send it via carrier pigeon.
That's
Ali
my
accepts
personal
mail.
favorite.
You just have to find her address.
Good luck. I've moved like 3 times in the past year.
You're a reclusive alley.
I mean, we had Chumpy mail me a picture to be critiqued.
It's true.
It was a thing that happened.
Gosh.
If you're lucky enough, you could be the one to mail.
Man, I like your color. There's a bit of a shame about the scanner that did this because it seemed to have blown out some of your shading.
Yeah.
Because if we look towards like under Fluttershy's mane, I really question if that is an artifact from the scanner or if it's actually how that was colored.
It does. That's exactly what I was just thinking as well. Because at first you look at it, it's like, whoa, that's weird. But then it sort of doesn't look quite natural.
Mm-hmm.
I do also agree with Maze. Rainbow Dash's wing is above her tail, even the dock of the tail, which makes very little sense unless if her back has a big S curve to it.
Mm-hmm. I think, so if I remember correctly, I remember when you were first sketching this out, you just started by sketching just the heads, no bodies or anything. And I really think, and I know you've asked about this in chat about planning out your images, and I really think a lot of the stuff we see here can improve and be prevented by really fleshing out the image before you put the details in. So figuring out how they're going to sit together, where they are on the plane, how they're interacting. Is the tails
Hmm.
going to be in front, or we just kind of like we drew further with I can't talk today. We drew Fluttershy and then we drew Rainbow Dash. Like it's kind of like you didn't get drawn together. You're like, okay, Rainbow Dash is just
Yeah,
put her in the
it's really
background.
hard to squish those details on when you're just sort of adding them in as an afterthought for sure.
Yeah, and I know you're already looking into doing that, so it's really just repeating and saying, yeah, give yourself more time to figure things out and figure out how they work together.
Hmm.
Like when I asked CPC the other day, because I was having issues with interacting stuff, um, they can just be blobs interacting. They don't have to be details. It just is like to get that feel and get it started. Then you kind of work on drawing them together.
It all starts out with sort of the simple figuring things out, loose sketching kind of thing. Just builds up from there.
I do have a question about the tail. The way Fluttershy is sitting on her tail, it starts out as a sort of 3D object, and then when she sits on it, it flattens back down as far as having any rise to it. Like, so I understand where she's sitting is going to be flattened, but even Fluttershy has like puff to her tail, like there's volume behind it. So my thought would be, well, what rises up towards the front here would just be just giving it a little volume, like it's popping out from under her. Because ponytails, you can't keep them down.
They're floofy.
Yeah.
Like how you made Rainbow Dash's tail very floofy feeling.
Yeah, you've even sunk her hoof into it, which is awesome.
Mm-hmm. They do have another question. They wanted to know about commission prices and what we think that something like this what would be a fair asking price.
So my question behind it: how long did it take you?
Mm-hmm.
Um, is this traditional that you're willing to mail to someone? And are you doing single characters for your commissioning plus other characters, or are you just doing whatever you ask? I will throw it on a sheet.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be careful with that one.
Yeah, very careful on that one.
Yeah.
I do know
I
a few
used
people
to-
who are like, yeah, let's just do whatever, and I'll come or I'll add on as it goes. But
Some people are cool, but then other people, like I used to obviously I used to do a lot of people snake characters and stuff, and like one person commissioned me one, like I was like, they're just like a head with a noodle attached, like
A
it's
danger
really
noodle.
not that hard, right? Even though like no, they are another like creature with their own anatomy that needs to be learned, and it took me years to learn those very well. But someone once wanted me to draw a couple of my own OCs in just a pit filled with like 100 snake characters. I did it. It took ages, and I was like, I am charging for every character after this.
So they said it took them about 7 hours to complete this piece.
So artists are strange creatures and don't value their time, even at minimum wage. If you're charging a sane price, this would be $100 or more.
Mm-hmm. I would agree, especially with the detail work and shading.
Yeah. And honestly, a picture like this, if you're mailing this picture to someone, I would like $100. It wouldn't even be much of a thought. I know plenty of people who would go, "Sweet, let's do this."
Yeah, I might not understand your obsession with cookies, my dude, but your art is beautiful.
How do you not understand an obsession with cookies? They're delicious.
I mean, they're okay, but like.
So, So if you're thinking about, you know, this as an actual one per character, if it's taking you 7 hours to do both, it'd probably be 5 to 5.5 for one, because the second one doesn't take, like, you're just adding on, right?
Yeah.
I'd say value your time at a bare minimum of $10 an hour. Bare minimum.
Yeah.
Go more, and if you aren't getting any bites, then feel free to back up a little bit on your pricing, but go more, value yourself a little higher than you think you should.
Yeah. It's definitely a learned thing to like respect the price that you decide, because when you're the one who's asking a price, it feels guilty because it's like asking people for money, even though you're not. You are giving a service, and it's like you're pricing that service. Whereas someone's like, "Oh no, that's too expensive," because you're always going to get people, especially if you don't shove your commission prices everywhere for people to see. I mean, obviously, you're still going to get people not seeing it somehow and asking you. But if you're like me and you don't post your prices anywhere usually, then like people will message you all the time, and so you'll get a lot of cases where it's like, here are my prices, and it's like, oh man, that's too much. I found that super old from like 8 years ago post on your buried somewhere on your Fur Affinity account you didn't know still existed that had said it was going to be like £8, and like and like disappointed with your pricing, and it's like it's sometimes tempting to be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'll lower it if you need to," but like, no, it's your price. If they don't take the commission, you'll have another customer.
And don't worry too much about mailing stuff. They said they were scared about
Yeah.
mailing. Honestly, I've mailed across the world. I haven't had an issue yet. I mailed out a Derpy plush once. That went to Africa, even though it was supposed to go to Ireland, but it
Oh
still made it
god.
to Ireland at some point. So things can go wrong. That's just something that can happen. But you can also buy insurance for things when you send them. So if something does go wrong, you know, both parties can be forgiven. But it's there's always a risk no matter what. But usually I've seen it go good as long as you package it properly and have it in an envelope that won't bend. And you know,
Yeah.
you think about its transportation.
Definitely the cardboard mailers are the best bet for this. They're cheap. They're like 50 cents each.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to charge for them. I know it's like a 50-cent cost, but it's like shipping and handling. Like, not only do you have to pack it, but you have to get it to the place to send it out. Like that, all that stuff, little stuff adds up, and it's okay to add that little
Yeah.
stuff.
And you don't need to put your return address on.
Nope.
If you're in the States or Canada, I know both can do the return address of the mail, like wherever you're sending it from, or just leave off a return address. I would highly suggest, though, if you're going to go the mailing route, definitely scan every picture just in
Yes.
case.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
And color calibrate your scanner. Because I've already ran into this issue yesterday. Damn, are the calibrations off. Certain colors are fine, but others are just wonky as sin. Easiest
My
way to do
scanners
that,
are really bad.
go to your local photography store and go get a color card. They're like $1 maybe. It's just a piece of paper that has color calibrated colors on it,
That's so cool.
and you go stick that on your scanner and then make your own color profile for it. If you're loading into GIMP, Photoshop, even Windows, you can set up color profiles, but use GIMP or Photoshop or whatever photo manipulation software. Load that profile in, scan, done. Colors will be perfect. You'll never be upset. It'll just take, an hour or two of your time. You could also just go to a professional photo printer location and get just print off a color reference sheet.
I don't know if my printer even has like color calibration.
You do it through the software after the fact. Let the scanner be stupid, and you'll calibrate it as it comes out.
My scanner also destroys everything with over like saturated contrast and exposure. Like every sketch comes out really weak and like horridly overexposed, and I cannot lower the brightness anymore. It has like 2 settings, and it's on the lowest setting.
Yeah,
it's a really cheap printer scanner.
they just posted a picture of their drawing, like they took with their camera in the Discord, and you can see a total difference.
Yeah. Your highlights and shadows are just blowing out in this one. And to be fair, pencil crayon is reflective, so it is going to cause a bit of that blowout. There's mitigating ways around this. This might come down to it's better not to use a cheap scanner bed, because better scanner beds will do a reflective method as opposed to direct light. It's really cool. It creates a more even lighting. But you can make this on the cheap. You take a lamp, you put a piece of paper over, like under the lamp where it's shining, so it's using that as a diffraction method. Like you're trying to even out the light from that. You're going to put it on a bit of a curve, hold that above your picture, and take a photo of it. It should knock out all the shadows. Done. You can get fancy with lighting, but also cheap. Sorry.
Sunlight's cheap. You can use that too.
Yep. Just be the shadows on sunlight can get vicious.
Yeah. You just need to be careful.
There's a particular time, because I did do photography in college. There's a particular time of the day in like twilight where it's just like absolutely perfect, because like during the day the light is way too bright and the shadows are too bright, and like in twilight like there's no direct shadows because the sun's gone, but it's all just like ambient light bouncing around, so there's hardly any shadow, but it's like it's a lovely general light that you can still see very clearly, and photography usually comes out really well. Yeah, what Artemis said.
Yeah. Well, if there's no other questions, I think we'll go on to the next one.
All right, DJ David, you are asking about this horse head. It's a bat pony. All right, I'd like this bust sketch critiqued in terms of how well the face and all the features look on it. It's a bat pony, OC. If you need specifics, maybe the eyes would be the one I'm struggling the most. Your eyes are well placed. They're fine. They're evenly sized. You're good. They're eyeballs. They're even pointing towards a sane object. They aren't just 1,000-mile stare.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say, I mean, if your plan was to have the eyebrows at different heights, then yeah, that's fine. But if you wanted them the same, just keep in mind that, that line up. Let me twist my canvas around.
Twist and shout.
Everything's been really slow on my computer. I'm trying to scroll on the draw pile and also get to the Picato, and neither is working.
Just throw hardware at a software problem.
Where have we disappeared to?
It's a time-honored tradition.
On the canvas.
So yeah, something you can do, I mean, the head is a circle, or essentially a ball. So if I'll just draw a little ball on her forehead. So we do the little cross section to kind of figure out where things are. And for the eyes, you can do the same thing. You just kind of like go around like you're tying a rope around that ball. And that way, oh, my eyes at this level, There, they're both at the same height now. A little something like that in the sketch phase can solve any of that like height differentiating issues.
Yeah, that always helps a lot.
Don't forget the other ear. It exists. With the height of your ear fluff on this one, you're just definitely going to have just the peak of the fluff popping over. I would also suggest bottom of the connection between the jaw and the neck, that line that forms there. If you make that a hard corner, that's done quite often. You could even see in the last one, Fluttershy had that hard corner. But I would taper into it a bit more just because, hey, there's flesh there that forms that sort of connection. If you go and massage under your neck and chin, you'll find it. That's smoothish curve. I do have a question about your mouth. Is your intent to do a jawless design, or do you prefer that 3D with the jaw?
Even if it is jawless, I think I have an issue with the plane the mouth is on. It feels a bit too tilted. Like I would almost tuck it in a little bit. Like instead of having that curve, I would just go for a more closer to 90 degrees. I like the spiky tooth though. The spiky tooth.
Little bat pony tooth.
Something like that feels very feels more on the face, not necessarily flat, but it feels less like the mouth is going, like, we completely remove the jaw and the mouth is just going towards the neck.
You got any further questions on this one?
Oh, here's another thing if you want to boost your art up a bit. This collar here. Oh, why do I not have a collar? There's Yeah, this collar down here. You could actually make it seem more 3D by just having it pop off the neck just slightly, just a little bit, and that way it feels like it's going around her. Because you have all this detail with the belt buckle and all of that. Why not have just that thickness to help it feel more voluminous?
That always helps a lot.
As for Maze's comment, I think the neck's plenty thick because I know there may be a tangent happening or something, but
Yeah, the collar, the curve of the collar can actually help imply where the neck is ending,
mm-hmm.
so our brains can work out like how far. So it would definitely help to make sure you draw that and draw the collar in, and then it would actually help our brains figure out where it's leading.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when I say draw it out, I don't mean keep it in the sketch. I mean like just to figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. Shall we move on to the next one?
Let
Keep
us.
the good work up, David.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming.
Horse. Oh, come on. What's happening to my mouse? It disappears all the time. There it goes. All right. So this one is submitted by I'm a Light Bra. I've been working super duper hard on this one, and it's finally my very first poster. So they said they were talking to someone else, answering how they did it. They did some research, found one that was similar, kept it close to the original. Since it's supposed to be a parody, I wanted the expression to be on point. Then I sketched the basic shapes to get an idea of how they like and see if it will fit. I don't know what that word is. Anyway, basically they're saying they did it. This is apparently in watercolor.
Yeah, it looks like it. Watercolor pencil, maybe? I see like some. It looks like watercolor with pencil.
Yeah,
Because I see some of the shadows seem like pencil work.
that is some. And gel pens for light reflections.
Mm-hmm.
Some good
And of course,
watercolor.
for the outlines.
A good combination of tools either way. It does create a very interesting like color profile. Like you got the really nice outlines, and you've got some really gorgeous like variety in the weight of your lines and everything, and then like the way the colors look in between those lines look super nice. You got the sort of nice sketchy lines, some nice textures, sort of like looking at the main to the left of her face looks really nice and textured, but then like the inside part is like nice and smooth, so it sort of differentiates it a bit.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I don't see anything wrong with the coloring. The coloring's great.
Yeah.
It does come off very matte under that mane, like the curve up over here.
Yeah. I think it creates like quite a nice appearance. It's definitely It's definitely a little contrasting, but I think that actually works well because it's quite an interesting, unique looking appearance there. It definitely makes it feel like the inside. What you could do is start fading that texture in towards the bottom, where if I can just grab my tablet pen, um, whoop, that's not what I meant. Like around this sort of part, if you started having some like highlights here fading in because it's more on the outside now, just a different kind of outside. But then definitely have it keep how it is around this part because I like how it's sort of blended. And it helps push it apart from the sort of outside parts that are surrounding it.
I'm gonna agree with Maze. The main curve here is throwing off a good chunk of this picture, because from the looks of it, it should go behind the head, but then that curve makes it the impression that that element is coming in front of the eye. And if that's the case, her entire mane has moved very far forward. Be careful with tangents. They will cause that if that wasn't the goal. If it was the goal, bizarre choice. I just avoid that. What I think I would do differently on this one is I would take... Here, let's go purple. Why not? I think I would just curve this the other way so it's the eyeball. Because maybe that's what happened here. I'm not sure. Without the artist responding.
Yeah.
I would just be careful about which way that curves. And then it's going to change it from being stacked over to stacked under. Also, don't forget the other ear. The wave of her mane is still going to expose that second ear.
And this isn't such a crazy tangent, but I would almost the mane over here, I would almost pump it up
just
a
thinking
little
that.
more. Yeah, just like it's a little too snug. I almost want to see that overlap. Really push that overlap. Like it's going in front of her neck. And when you see someone's
Yeah,
hair, like,
because it looks like it's going behind the neck, especially
yeah.
because the shape here gets very thin. It
Mhm.
makes it look like it's cut behind the neck, but it kind of it's like where does the neck go then in that case, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely.
Dang, consistent. Like, as far as the watercoloring goes, you have some skill there. The consistency among the face and body, and even on the shading, it's great.
Most definitely. You have a nice control. You don't let yourself get too wet.
Yeah, I get overzealous every time. I'm like, I don't want to wait for it to dry. I just want to keep
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
I
And
probably
as
would as well.
for a face, I think you hit the target. I'm not quite sure. I feel like I've seen the reference to it before, but no, I think it looks the expression is what's important, and that's what I'm getting from you, and your expression comes across.
Not the biggest fan of the flat muzzle. I think I would add just a bit of a boop to it,
Yeah, that's a good
just
point.
to imply that it's
Yeah,
stacked on the face, like it's got a bit of
I
overlay.
always like to try and do like the whole snout if possible, but like some expressions like this one just don't work for it because you need like the whole mouth visible, and it is I do like this expression.
That's anyone else got anything?
Mace has figured something out. Something about the
Is it the horn?
angle of the. Yeah, I think the horn is at kind of a strange angle.
We could
No,
display
correct.
the greatest way of doing it. The crazy circle.
On a pink pony. He says the direction of the eyes would put the mouth and nose more forward. I'm not quite sure. what they mean by more forward, like more to one side of the face, or just like pushed outwards? Like give more 3D depth to the face, or I'm not quite sure. Okay. Like if I don't draw pink on a pink pony, or some other god awful color, so like the head comes around like this, got the horn, then it goes down the middle of the face, comes up for the nose. Usually have like a nose here, and goes down to the bottom of the face. That's terrible. Yeah. Oop. No, this program. Something like that. I think Maze is talking about. Could just try that and see. Woo. Does that look better? No, I don't know. I think it's mostly fine where it is. You can maybe make it a little bit longer. I don't know. Oh no, that's not what I wanted to do. The program is difficult.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there's lots of ways that you can sort of try changing the anatomy a little bit.
All right, shall we move on?
Yes, we shall.
Here.
Should we do Artemis's since they are here?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Artemis.
LD is just biased. He's just a needy pants.
Yup.
No problem. I was busy doing things in Ziyagi.
That's okay. Eggy, eggy, eggy.
The theme is a woo. That isn't just a butt.
Ooh. I like that. I like that Pinkie Pie. Ooh.
Who drew that?
I don't know, but I like it. I think it was Mr. Cookie Master
Ah.
or the Cookie Man.
Yeah, the eyelashes look familiar. I used to do those like full eyelashes. And then people were like, "It's weird," and I was like, "I like it though." But then I was like, "Maybe not."
All right. What questions do you have in particular on this not horse?
This wolf.
I'm certainly not a horse.
Ooh.
It's a werepony.
It's a werepony.
So I was mostly wondering about the tail, the way it lays on the ground. I don't know, the way it did it feels a bit unnatural. I was wondering how we could improve that, and then there were small details about the shadow below the body and the back paw.
I think the way they're sitting on the ground, it feels very unnatural because we've lost the other leg. There's no sign of it, so either they're doing the comical puppy leg where it's just splayed out while still having their hip forced up, or we've just lost a leg in translation. What was your goal there as far as how they're sitting?
I should probably link the reference
Sure.
if I find it.
References are magic.
Because it's heavily taken from it. I kind of wanted to make just a different pose for the back leg, and yeah, maybe have both legs on the same side, but I couldn't find a way to make this look good, so I just one. And imagine the other one would be laying next to the body, parallel to the body on the other side.
I need to look and see if there's a way to lower that onion skinning magnitude, because that's. I need to lighten this. Ah, that's way too much.
Definitely agreeing with Allie there. Tail goes up. No, poop tail.
I'm bad with animal anatomy. I don't know
Got
how to do
this.
paws.
Yeah, as for the tail laying on the ground, I think the big thing here is I feel like what the ground is defined as is having some issue. So like we have the elbows in the front hitting the ground at a certain point, and your stomach hitting the ground, and then the back leg hitting the ground. So
I think laying a grid out will help you.
yeah.
Especially because you're digital. You get to abuse the grids.
Great, this definitely helps my drawing in purple.
No problem, buddy.
It's a different enough purple, you know. It's a challenge.
Glad to be of assistance.
But
I
I think
I
you
love
had
that drop pod didn't save any of my tool setups. That's great. Thanks.
oh. You definitely have the basic idea down for just getting that overlap. What I'm doing here is just kind of having it flop down, like Zamzam was saying, just kind of have it poke up a little more, coming out of the backbone, and then when it flows down, you're kind of met with this like, oh, it's crash. It pretty much crashes. It hits the ground. There's a sudden change in how it is draping. So there'll be lots of overlap to kind of identify that.
Why do you need to leave, Maze? You gotta go?
Bye, Mies.
Bye, Maze.
So I'm imagining the body laying like on the side-ish, maybe not quite to this magnitude, but something to this effect, where this is sort of how I've seen animals pose, where they're laying down. They'll have maybe not sticking out as far, but they'll have one leg sort of tucked underneath the other. Now what I've drawn makes absolutely no visual sense. So I just keep messing with it to the point where
It's
kind
a
of says
hard
that way.
pose. I mean,
Yeah, it is a hard pose. I tried to do this sort of thing with like centaurs and other like horse characters and ponies. It is difficult to like figure out exactly how this anatomy works, but like it would be best to do what we kind of don't have time to right now because we're doing stream, and look at references of animals doing this laying down pose. Probably cats and like actual dogs do it a lot.
Oh yeah.
I definitely think cats are probably going to do this sort of pose a lot. I'm not going to speak with too much assurance on the anatomy though, because I'm not really practiced with animals.
Yeah, I definitely need to look up a reference of some kind.
You need the Aggie link. I can get you an Aggie link.
Oh. Wait. Pasted that in the wrong place. Oop.
Hi. Yeah. Hi, Vegan. Sorry, my mouth is clogged up with chocolate.
How
I brought
dare
enough
you
for the
be
class,
late?
but I can't throw that far.
I expect one airmailed to me.
Okay, I linked the reference I used, and maybe 2 pictures of the reference I should have used for dog poses.
Hindsight's 2020.
Yep.
Yeah, usually a lot of the times, what I need to always tell myself and what I try to tell others is if there's an anatomy issue and you're only using one reference, sometimes you need to get more, especially if that reference is only an artist reference. I know it's like you may not be drawing realistic, and that's fine, but it does help influence
it helps you figure out how people come to certain decisions and how like the pose is meant to be, even if it's not a case of I can't really translate this to drawing because I'm not very good at translating photographs to drawings, but even so it can help you figure out, okay, how is the leg supposed to be sitting and stuff like that.
Yeah, well said. Well said.
Like it might be a case of like is the leg on the other side? Oh no, it is on this side, like tucked under the body. Okay, I can figure that out.
Yeah, it's like, will we actually see the behind leg? Maybe it's like
Yeah.
opposite.
In fact,
Yeah.
I just realized I actually have a picture stuck like pretty much right above my computer of a centaur laying in this pose that I look at every single day.
Yeah, these are great references you're finding of dogs laying down.
Stuck for the websites, yay!
Oof.
I think you just gotta hunt down more dogs and take pictures of them.
And then hug
Just
them.
chase people's dogs in real life.
I need a
I should
picture
do
of your
that.
dog.
Just following them along on the street, waiting for them to lay down.
Pictures of dogs.
Squeak. Oh no! I picked up my phone and knocked a bunch of monster cans onto Minty.
Oh no.
It was my fault for stacking them next to my computer with my wallet precariously balanced next to it where it could tip over and knock them off.
Yeah, just like loosely sketching a thing.
Sketchy, sketchy, sketch, sketch.
If you've ever done gesture drawing, I really highly recommend doing it with animals. It's difficult because I like to do it with like all the animal settings turned on, so I could go from like a hippo to a horse to a dog, and that really throws you off when you think about anatomy. But it kind of makes your mind not think about your predetermined, what's the word? Just like what you already think about the subject. It makes you look at it and draw what you see instead of what you think you know. Because that tends to get in the way of anatomy. Because you're like, well, a dog looks like this in my head, but then
Yeah.
that gets confused with the picture because you're not like you're like half looking at the picture instead of like
Imagination is
fully.
much more flexible. Stuff is allowed to not make sense in our imaginations because our brains kind of put things together in a way that we believe them, even when we're not seeing all the details or putting them in the right place.
Mm-hmm. But yeah. You think you have any other questions or?
I don't think so. Thanks.
Yeah. I hope to
Thanks for
see more
submitting, friend.
woofy unicorns. Where corns?
Ow!
Ow!
All right, let's go on to other ones. We got oh, come on. Yeah, there we go. Let's go on to the rainbow. No, the horse above Rainbow Dash.
Little pun.
Little pony. Who did this one? I think this is by Steam Flash. There's too much stuff on that desk.
That's my problem, my nightmare at the moment.
Take a hockey stick, clear it off.
Oh my god. They're breakables.
They won't be breakable anymore. They'll be broken.
I'm not destroying my desk.
And he threw it on the ground.
Oh my god.
Hey Zal, you should join that Eggy and draw in that Eggy. You know you want to. It's an Eggy. It is filled with pictures.
Enjoy, but mostly pictures.
And a lot of awoos.
Awoo!
Awoo!
Awoos. Like the wolf sound.
All right, so this is by Steam Flash. Another drawing of a pony I did critique for any part of it is welcome. Any part. So they outline a pretty great method where they
the
like.
part that is not being booped. There, fixed.
Perfect. 10 out of 10.
They go through all their steps and iterations of it, and it's pretty great. But overall, I feel like the second one was better in the areas and were worse. Anyway, they have a few ones. I had an unusually tough time drawing the eye outlines for both versions, and a little trouble with the mouth. There on the second one. Excuse me.
Bless you.
There we go.
Bless you.
I tried using a dark gray for the pupils instead of a black line in the previous pictures. I'm not sure which I prefer yet. Also, yeah, I know I should start to add shadow on the floor of each drawing to get better at that. As my internet was out, I couldn't look at the last picture's critique or the shading simulator site, and I probably didn't improve much as a result, but I thought I'd share regardless. Hey, my suggestion, go back to that critique. Just because,
you have
internet.
internet.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also, check out that shading simulator site, because now you have internet.
And as for the, if I heard that right, being afraid to put shadow underneath the pony, you don't have to do much. You can literally like a circle and just like fill that in, and that's your shadow.
Yep.
My alley clone notifier is going nuts.
Oh, my bad.
It's kind of funny. It's your name like shooting back and forward really fast.
That's the one downside of these icons.
It's kind of funny though.
But yeah, don't overthink the ground shadow. You don't need to go to hyperrealism. It's cartoon. You just need something to ground it. Just a little circle ground shadow. Boom.
Yeah. And I just sort of helped illustrate that with the hoof.
Yes.
It being placed more. It's easy thing, and if that's not the plane and perspective you're going for, sure, you don't have to use the specific angle we're interpreting, but going off of the idea that we're looking at this pony from the side, I just sort of grounded the hoof, had more of that sort of bend and stretch to show that it is squished downwards against the floor with the opposing force of the floor, making it a flat line. Because that is what things are. It's forces opposing one another. And humans and ponies alike are squishy marshmallows.
Yes.
And I just angled the leg to be more down. So if you think about like how they're jumping, like how the leg would move to step, like firstly it would sort of move up this way, and then it would like stretch outwards, and then plonk down. From that bent position, so I just sort of reverse the bend of the leg, if that makes sense, because I thought that would make a little bit more sense anatomy wise. And then you can tuck it because it's like just barely touching the other leg in the original. With this where you can sort of tuck it much more firmly behind the front leg, because you brought the front leg back and the rear leg forward a bit, so you can even more push that overlap.
Is it possible they weren't trying to pirouette on one hoof?
Like possible, they could be doing like I was saying, maybe we got the angle wrong. But you could be looking at this pony from above, and they're like standing on two legs. That is entirely possible. In which case, don't use the leg that I've drawn. But like I said, we were just interpreting this as looking at the pony from the side, whereas maybe that's not what's happening. But we don't know.
Yeah.
I expect you to know all.
Read everyone's
we
mind.
definitely appreciate anyone who can be here for the streams to communicate with us.
Yes. Or just leave us a really big old
Detailed
lovely
description
thing.
of what it is, like what angle you're going at and what the pony's actually doing.
I mean, of the people who leave critique or leave posts on our subreddit, this person leaves the most detailed.
Yeah.
They give all the
Gosh,
steps
more details then. More.
I think more poignant
expect more.
questions about what you're looking for
Yes.
is what we're saying here.
Yeah.
And this isn't a critique for you in particular, it's for every person ever. Ask poignant questions.
We do appreciate the sort of go ahead of like, I don't mind any critique you got, I'll take it kind of thing. That does sort of help give us the go ahead, but specific questions are really, really and helping us understand what is going on in the picture does help us to give more accurate critique.
Mm-hmm. To sum it up, help us help you. You're gonna get more out of it if you give us more knowledge of what you want. Because we could sit here and draw over your picture and be like, but I want the hoof. I actually want them to be standing on all fours because that's better. That's not gonna help you, you know?
Yeah. Either way, this pony looks like they're having a well of a time, and I
Yes.
like it.
It reminds me a lot of that feel. Who? Oh my gosh! What was the animated series? They used to do Rainbow Dash Presents. That was the series. That's what their
Oh,
art style
yeah.
reminds me of.
Yeah, I knew it reminded me of something.
I mean, other than everything else, no poop tail. Stop the poop tail.
Yeah.
Death to poop
It's
tail.
really easy to forget that. Just like, here's a pony bum, here's a ponytail. But like, you've got to think about the fleef of hair coming out of. I mean, like, it's important. Like, I think a lot of people don't actually know like what the tail looks like, really. And if you think of a unicorn, that's literally what a pony's tail is. Is this? This is a pony's tail, and then on top of that, there's fluffy
Lots
hair,
and lots of hair.
doing this. That's what a horse's tail is. So remember that it's a tail coming out of the spine where the tailbone is.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. We got
I
plenty of art.
do want to just the horses. I was curious because I wasn't sure if horsetails were long or short. It's like a medium to stubby.
Yeah, I don't think they're super duper long, but I'm sorry.
I was mostly curious because I always thought they were like stubby, but then
I
I
know
was
I'm pretty sure we've seen a pony in the show like with no, or at least a couple times
Well,
maybe,
Yeah, there's
with
an
like
old
the
pony.
no tail hair and showing it kind of stubby. So maybe you're right.
they're like little sausages. It's so weird. I'm just looking at horses with shaved tails.
Just looking at horses' butts.
Yep,
Yeah.
shamelessly.
It's sort of just meant to be like a floof of hair that hangs down so they can whip flies with.
Dude, this horse has boots and I love it.
Are they My Little Pony boots?
That would be amazingly meta.
All right, let's go to the next one. Where'd my pen go? Here's my pen go. One beneath it.
I mean, Fanta in your lungs sucks.
Oh no.
You should stop choking to death.
That's what I'm trying to do.
It is counterintuitive to that living thing.
Yeah, I'll become a zombie.
I should know. I close stuff. I mean to close that.
Well, you don't get that song in my head. I hate it.
Was it Silly Pony? No. So this is by Polish Elmir. Rainbow Dash Chilling in the Clouds. And there is no comment, no question, just Rainbow Dash chillaxing in clouds. So I'm definitely going to agree with the one comment. G5 vibes. I don't know if that's your goal, but
yeah.
totes there. If that is your goal, good job.
You can see it.
If it's not your goal,
Then, well, just an interesting tidbit.
yeah. It's obvious the direction you were going in this. Your head makes sense for that sort of direction that you're aiming for. The tail, not quite, and the legs look very stiff, like how they're sitting.
I think the one main problem with the front leg is that you're actually kind of broken their arm. So right now the bone's going like this, when really it comes out of the arm more like this. So we wouldn't have her arching over as much. And if you did want her to like kind of like put her elbows up and relax like if she was sitting in a big armchair, we would still see that bend.
Yeah. Pressure applied on the elbow rather than the shoulder.
Yeah. And I think the other leg down here on this side as well comes out a little bit too far from the actual body. Like, because you have all the clouds, it's kind of hard to tell right now. My eye wants me to read it like this. So she has a big, long thigh. And that would make this leg way longer than the leg over here.
Yeah, it is hard to sort of figure that out. Where's my pen? Pen. Okay. What I'm doing isn't perfect by any means, but I was just trying to give them more pony-shaped legs rather than human-shaped legs. I mean, it makes any sense. And I was just trying to not put the legs in a super dynamic. Sorry, I was trying not to put them in a super like the same like position right next to each other, trying to make them a bit more dynamic. But yeah, that's not super easy. You can try doing them spread out like this. I'm just historically not very good at doing the legs in this position.
I don't know, those are looking pretty dang cute.
Okay, there we go. That's not too bad.
So I do wonder when you're doing all this, if you're doing an under sketch under it to work out the body before placing all the clouds around it. If not, then that's definitely the angle I would go, because your coloring and your line work, it's all very, very good. You definitely have like the talent there. Just the build up to it, I think needs the work. So if it is the case that the under sketch was lacking, which I think that's what I'm seeing here, without you having any say or any word in this, that would be my estimate. I would work on your under sketches a bit more. I know it's a boring part of it, under sketching sometimes, but definitely pushing them a bit harder so you can get a good solid grasp of how the pony's going to be sitting, or how, not even pony, like the subject is going to be in the image.
Yeah. And make sure also to sketch out everything of the character. Like keep in mind, or even block out certain areas, like this cloud's going to be here, or they're going to be sitting on a chair here or something, and like block those areas in, but just don't do too much detail into them, just so that you know they're there roughly, and then draw the entire character so that you know you're getting everything balanced and proportioned right. Because it's really hard when our brains have to fill gaps in to see what is really there. And then once you've got the character drawn, you draw the bits, start covering them up, and everything looks nice and natural.
Yeah, the sketch is it's like baking a cake. You could put icing on a brick and no one would know the difference, but then you bite into it and it's a brick and it's like, oh, that's not great stuff. But you make a cake and the cake is delicious and lovely and you cover that with icing. It's like, oh wow, that made the whole experience better.
All right, that was an analogy. I never expected eating a brick would come up in this chat, but you know what?
Why are you so surprised? Come on, why?
I'm sure we've had weirder analogies.
Because bricks are not my favorite food.
No, that's
And
brains.
sometimes undersketching isn't other people's favorite. You know, analogies.
There we go.
Undersketching isn't always people's favorite food. That's going in the cards.
Who wants to figure out anatomy? I want to get to the colors. Come on.
All right, shall we move on to the next one?
Yes, sir.
My mind's telling me that my tablet's being very mean. All right, we got a picture by someone. Who did this? Not you, not you. It was you! Hamburger steak!
Delicious.
Why not both? Some character drawing I did. I can't help but have the feeling there's something off in the way you draw the heads. Wow, that's a dark picture on the bottom.
So the two things that poke out to me is that you have a very rounded muzzle, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just when I say rounded, I feel like the two pictures are like down here. I know this is very dark and I can't see it, but I feel like I'm getting this kind of a shape. And it doesn't have to be perfectly flat per se, but does help to add to the musculature instead of making everything have a round edge. It kind of like mixes things up with harder edges because a balance of round and soft always helps. As for the other thing that pokes out to me is the ear. The ear, no matter what angle you're drawing at, is looking like it's in the same direction. Like there's nothing following the head with it or changing it all. It's just kind of like the same ear, both ways.
You don't forget the second ear for both of them. Now that it's the fourth time we've brought this up. Ears, people. These horses gotta hear.
You gotta have omnidirectional hearing. Yeah, so this would sort of be more like how the ear would be positioned from the side if we're looking at the one underneath as from the front. And of course they can twist their ears.
Of course.
That's one of the things with horses, but just the idea that we're seeing them from a different angle and showing them from a different angle, it would be cool to show the ear that way as well. Like it does make sense if they're looking quite purpose off to the side. Chances are maybe there's something there, and they may have flicked their ear out like instinctively to like hear in that direction, as well as to look in that direction. But we're just sort of thinking about like presenting things with art, since it looks like you're sort of trying to show the character from two different ways.
Yeah, it looks like a bus with nothing really, like nothing to imply that that would be the action that she's doing.
I do like the sort of shading in the bottom part. It's quite soft, and I actually quite like the sort of diffusion of it, especially in the ear.
The only thing that was sticking out to me at the bottom one was the horn placement. I drew this red line here, centering it to where the muzzle was.
It also kind of looks like a Madrasu from Okami with this red line with the circle.
But yeah.
What was this Ponyville Grim Dark Tales? Amnesia: The Dark Descent. I feel like I've heard of that, but I don't. Is that a game?
That was a
It's a
big
game.
scary game. Yeah.
Got very popular.
Oh, is that what what these quotes are from?
Maybe.
Possibly.
Let shadows shroud thy heart, and for light shines brightest in the dark. It does sound familiar.
Yeah, otherwise I would say I would take a look and see for yourself, what do you think exactly is off with your face? What do you not like about it? I know it's sometimes hard to search that, but if you could pick something out, maybe leave, for your next piece, if you decide to leave one with us, think about exactly what. I know it's hard. It's hard. Sometimes you just have a piece and you're like, I don't know what's wrong with it. Something's wrong with it. Tell me what's wrong with it. Try to dig a little deeper. Try to really look at it and figure out what exactly you don't like about it.
Now you're asking them to do the work?
I know. Art, it's almost like, you gotta do work.
Okay. Your original drawing was already lovely as it was, but I was just like experimenting with trying to mimic your style, but like turn the muzzle up a little bit and sort of separate the lips somewhat, and I think that looks really nice.
Yeah, like, I think, honestly, if you're going for a more, because I know I mentioned earlier how everything felt very curved, I think Fluffy just demonstrated a really great way if you want to have a really curvy feel all around.
I like that style where you have like a really round snoot as well.
Like, I think that works great. I think it was maybe that it was too small of like a little bump here. Like I said, I can't see it too great, but it almost feels like not snoot.
I can't turn the layer off, so I can only turn it up to myself.
Yeah.
But typically there will be some definition where where the lips are, where the mouth meets, like from the bottom part to the top part. So I just sort of helped accentuate that a little bit. It can be hard to get that curve right inside view, but it works really well when you can nail it. So just typically give it a couple tries and refine the curve if like maybe the chin goes down too far, which is usually the first mistake I do, or you can't quite get the curve right and it's too sharp, which is the second mistake I usually do. Like there can be a lot of things that sort of just don't. It's quite a fine balance, but let's give it a shot.
Yeah, keep at it. We can't wait to see more.
All right.
Soft pony.
Let's move on to the next one then.
Where we
Which
head
is
to?
this one gonna
The
be?
pink horse up at the top.
Punk.
This is adorbs.
So this is by the same person. Hold on. Did I not pay enough attention? I didn't pay enough attention.
LD.
So generally, we only do one picture by a person every time. No, in words that aren't just mumbly, we try and only critique one of your pictures a week because, as you can see, we got a few pictures. If you have any questions in particular on this, feel free to ask us in the other one, but we're just gonna hop on to the next one just because we got like 6 other
Otherwise, I
pictures to
will
go.
totally want to give this little pawn a hug.
Hug.
It reminds me of like the sort of like G3 figures and stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like it's a toy.
Yeah, I just want to give it a cuddle.
So let's go on to the one beneath this.
Alright.
I love the lighting and coloring in this film.
So this one is by Life Song. Hey, yeah, I'm relatively new to the sub and Reddit in general, so I figured I might as well start by sharing some art. Recent commissions for
That's
a
a great way to
buddy
start.
on Discord.
Awesome that you're taking commissions. I always support people. It's never a bad time to offer them. The worst thing that happens is that no one buys them. If you feel up
Yeah.
for it, you should try. You really.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot of like things to know, pitfalls to avoid and stuff.
Voice,
But by all means, it's great to start doing commissions. It can be a really good way to like experience drawing new things and get your experiences out there.
So they
Yeah.
posted their prices, and holy cow, they are way too low. I'm gonna say this because we talked about this with another person. Value your time. There is no way this took only 3 hours to do, and if it did, Jesus. But you charged
Charge more
apparently
for
$30 for this. Like,
Wow.
Either you charge because your time is valuable, or you charge because you're super fast and able to get people's stories really quickly. Either way, charge more.
You're either charging for your skill or your time or all of the above or material. There's a lot. Anyway.
Yeah, if you're able to pump this out in 3 hours, then that means you have the skill that's willing to ask for that extra dollar. If this takes you 6 hours, you should ask for 6 hours of pay.
Yeah.
Don't undervalue yourself. People will still buy your art even if it's more expensive. Yes, I mean, sketches and all that, fine. Keep them low, like plain black and white outline sketches. Those are... I am more than happy seeing artists keep their prices really low on those, because, I mean, you can bang out a flat sketch, no color, just outlines of a single character, under an hour. Cool. $10, $15, done. Both parties are happy. This type of picture, that should not only be triple the price of your flat sketch. There is a lot going on in this, and I just don't want to see you work way too hard for way too little.
Yeah, and I know this is something I've seen a lot in the fandom. Don't bow down to the people who are like, but I only want to pay $6 for something. The thing is, they're only looking for free or really cheap art. They're not actually there for you. They're there just to get a quick thing. They don't even care about quality half the time. They just want someone to do something for them.
Yeah.
So they're not your audience to sell to. They don't want to be sold to. So they're not going to be repeat customers.
And as I said to someone one of the previous people who clicked, like, if you give your prices and someone comes along and says no, that's like that's too much for me. I think that's too expensive. I don't know if I can afford this. Like, it's very tempting to feel bad and like want to give them a discount so that they can afford it. But you know, it's your prices and you got to value them. And if someone says no, they can't afford it, then too bad. You'll get more
Yeah.
customers. Listen, I had to learn.
You left your OC with the cookie Miyagi. All right.
I mean, there are sort of exceptions. Like, there was one instance I actually asked these guys about it in the group because I was sort of curious about people's opinions. Where someone was asking for a commission, and it was like really not going to be very hard for me to draw, but like they did not have the kind of money to afford my usual stuff. But I thought like one of the characters was mostly going to be covered anyway. Like, you just see like their head, and the other character wasn't a pony. So I was like, I like it wouldn't be too hard for me to draw this at all. Like, I could give them a discount just because it would be easy for me to pump this out. But like they were having trouble making the payment anyway, and after a while I was like, no, I just need to take some full price pictures here.
I mean, make exceptions when you feel.
Yeah,
At the end of the
if you
day,
feel that it's valuable for you and doable for you, not because someone else needs an exception, you know.
you're drawing a picture for a friend. Sure.
Yeah.
You know, whatever. They shouldn't. A friend shouldn't be asking for half price on a picture or something. That's not good
But that's
friendship.
another issue.
But if you're just like, yeah, I drew this, enjoy. You know, I'll $20, whatever. Cool. Anyway, that's off topic. Let's talk about the horse and the background and the art direction going on here.
So I really want to say I absolutely love Fluffy's idea for the ears. I think that is a really great take on horse ears, and I it's a personal opinion. You can throw it away if you don't want to listen to us, but I like that better than the big old like cup behind with a thin ear. If you're going for thin ears, get them like that all nice and thin. Like that's really I like that.
I was actually just struggling to replicate what they had originally, and just kind of trying to instead replicate a little bit of what my friend Cordawson does with her lovely ears, but also not being able to do that properly. But you know, you can get the idea.
And
Um,
I'm a fan.
yeah, the first thing I noticed words was the horn was definitely pointed down at like a strange angle. Maybe that's a birth defect the pony has. Maybe it was an accident. Fine. But if she is supposed to have a normal horn, it's very very easy to get lost in like you just like, oh, there's a horn sticking out, and I think a lot of us love to have that like head pointed down, horn out, like magic. 'Cause it looks really cool. Having the horn pointed really forward, but it's with the direction that we're looking at the pony from, it would be stuck more up this way. We typically like to use a 45-degree angle rule and try to imagine the head as a sphere and like how that would mean the horn sticking out. Otherwise, I just neatened up some of the face just a little bit to make it a little bit more sort of symmetrical in the sort of 3D space of the anatomy, but not too much really needed to be changed, I think. So this pony got some powerful legs.
Mm-hmm. Well, they look like a hard-working horse.
Yeah. Probably do a lot of physical lifting, although I don't know, they've got magic, so I'm not sure.
I like the braided tail, but you've brought it way out to the side. I would definitely tuck that thing behind her more and bring it under. It helps point the character a bit more. There's no reason for her to be turning
in some fire every time she turns around.
Yeah.
It actually looks the way you've got it originally, where the tip of the tail ends right on the edge of the bucket. It actually almost looks like the tail is tucking behind the bucket, and part of where the tail is braided, like this part here, there's this like dark part as a gap in the fire. If you look at it from a distance, it looks like the fire is lapping around the tail, like the tail is actually in the fire in that part.
Oh no.
So we don't want her to catch fire. It looks like the tail is shooting off into the distance, like she's got one hell long braided tail there that's like going right off into the room. But that's not the intention that we think you're trying to go for. So if you bring it in, increase that overlap, it will help show the actual intended size. Also, braids are hard.
They are hard. But speaking of that background, I almost want to take a blur brush to this because there is so much detail that my eye personally didn't go right to the pony. I kept looking at the bricks in the background.
Well, if you just like even I mean we sometimes with backgrounds you need to have like a progression of blur, but I think if you took everything from like the bucket, the table, and her around, and just like had that like a lot of it is probably on different layers anyway, but just to just completely separate this background here and just blur it just like a little bit. I mean, you could do what I do because I'm terrified of making any destructive changes and duplicate the whole thing to a merged layer, so you have the whole like background folder turned off somewhere and you have just like the merged background layer as a copy, and then just blur that because it will really draw the eye to the pony. That's all nice and contrast. Like it can do a lot to make a character stand out that way.
And then you can also push with that blur. You push the more important darks that will push
Yeah.
your bright pony in front.
Yeah.
You want to, like, I know with the fire behind her, she's going to have a strong light behind her. But you don't
Yes.
necessarily need everything else to be the same saturation, I want to say. Yes.
Yeah.
No, not saturation. Value.
Values.
Value. That's it. Value is the from white to black.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, it's always easy when you get to the point where it's like, okay, I've drawn this background, it looks lovely, I don't really want to mess with it now. But like, usually I get to that point and I just like try it anyway, and I'm like, actually, yeah, it does look really nice blurred. The detail's still there, but it's just like softened, so our brains can actually figure out a lot of it.
I think you've gone too much, Allie.
I probably have. What I was gonna
Just
do,
having fun.
basically, what I would have done next is go back in and really pop out where some of those shadows are. This is really dark for what it is, but just like really, almost like I just want to strip it down personally. Like I feel like there's just. Wonder how many undos I have left, if I can even.
I think I would have, instead of blurring, just darkened up the back, because the mantle of that fire pit is going to be shrouded in it seems to only have two light sources. There's a light source coming from over her shoulder, window, door, whatever is hanging around here, and then the fire pit. You have this big hearth over top of the fire pit, and that's going to be blocking out a fair amount of the light shining up at that rock. So I would darken the rock up on the top, darken the rock along the edge here, and leave just very like highlighted edges basically that are catching that light, and that's going to darken up the background a bit and fade out that enough that you can get more of the character in there. And then I would take some of the inside of the mane here, and some of the, like, because you have this dark value that hangs around the chest and body, but that value doesn't carry over to the rest of the hidden parts of the mane, and I'd bring that up there so we have more samey values. Easiest way to tell if your values are going all sorts of wonky, throw it into grayscale. If you throw it into grayscale and you don't see your darkest darks matching along the areas where your dark should be dark, then it's a good pointer to darken it up. There's some artists who will work in grayscale and then color over the grayscale just so they can make sure their values are starting or at the same
I
levels.
have definitely done that.
Like View Rapster, that's how he works. That is his workflow. He does all the
struggle
lines.
a lot with like the colors of backgrounds, especially because I don't. This is really nice in terms of like the colors. It feels very earthy and natural. Typically, if I do have to do an indoor scene, it would just be like a typical like bedroom, with like a carpet and like a rug and like just basic things. I'm trying to decide like the color for like the wall paint and like the floor and stuff. And like I'm really bad with that, so like at the very least doing the grayscale values, turning it grayscale and then just like adjusting everything and then worrying about the hue can help like tremendously if trying to make a decision.
And just for fun, since we are talking about black and white, if I can paste.
Oh, you do it. I was looking to see if there was an option in Aggie, but of course there's not.
But yeah, I quick did it, and I found the real source. The hearth behind the pony. Yes, it is the main light source, but it is brighter than the pony herself, which is why I'm drawn to it more than her, even though that's just all stone and gray. Wait, I need to click out of it.
There it is.
Wrong layer.
Yes,
but...
it's all very, very balanced, so she's not. That's what I was worried about. She's not
Wait,
Sorry, I'm
Drawing.
just moving it so it's not.
Yeah.
There we
There
go.
it goes.
There we go. Oop. Yeah, so as we thought, she's really not like popping out very much because the tones are like there's nothing really bleeding into each other, which is good. But even so, it's all a very dark, like hard to distinguish hue because there's not a lot of contrast. Where you might want the background to be darker than her, especially around this side of the image, because as like if there is a secondary light source, as LD is saying, maybe not, but like the fire I think will be such a bright light source that looking towards it will silhouette everything else, just because light will dominate our vision typically and make everything else look darker. So you could darken the area around her just to help highlight her somewhat. You could also put more of a glow around the horn light, and the light cast by the magic on the horn, like on the cloth and the sword, to establish some little tiny bits of some tertiary light sources, and that could lighten up some of the pony as well.
And something, sorry, something you can also consider for next time is really consider where that big light source is going to be. Like, if it is your fire, maybe reconfigure the composition of the picture so that that fire is boosting your subject matter. That's not just behind her; it's framing her, or it's
Yeah.
in a way that shows her off instead of it.
Yeah, framing is an important device that you definitely not one of the first things you learn, but one of the most useful. Which we see a lot of, or we used to see a lot of talk about that in MLPDS, especially with some ponies who were trying to learn more like painterly stuff, and like View Aspect was trying to help them, talking about framing a lot. At least that's something I still talked about a lot, and it's basically just like if you had like look at this grayscale picture. I can't really do much with like painting on this, but imagine that the fire had a much brighter appearance, so we'd hardly see any of the detail of the bricks behind it because it's behind the light source, so there's not really much way that light is going to escape past that and get to our eyes. There's going to be a bright it's going to be a fade all around the fire, making it a lot brighter, including like all the highlights and everything outside is going to be much darker. I don't know why I accidentally shaded this with dark and light colors, respectively, or whatever. But then imagine that we move that so it's behind. Like take the scene, literally just imagine we're standing here looking at this, and then we take a step to the right, and we're seeing the pony in front of the fire now. That is going to be creating a huge ambience around her of light, that she will be more silhouetted and dark, but it will be framing her, and we'll see her distinguished from the background because there's literally a frame around her. Ooh, messing with up the buttons of my pen, saying like, "Hey, here's this character," because it's going to be actually outlining her. Or you could do it with something dark as well. That typically works even better, but it's with this case, the main tool for that seems to be the fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hope that was helpful. And if you do have questions about anything we said, please feel free to pop in the Discord or
Yeah, you do really great work. We'd love to see more from you.
Absolutely. And raise your prices. I know it's scary.
You are valuable.
Yes.
All right. What do we got left? We got this one, the historical one, on the left side. So this is by inexperienced __128. Washington crosses the Delaware. I think we've seen something of this before.
This is insane. So much traditional colors.
Yeah, so we've seen this picture. What's going on?
LD get confused again?
No, we've seen this 6 days ago. Hold on.
Have you seen this? It doesn't look familiar to me, but...
I'm holding my horses.
Maybe I'm just insane.
Hold on.
Yeah, I'm just insane.
I mean, I knew that.
There, we're holding
Okay.
the horses.
You don't have to hold the horse anymore.
Yeah, okay.
Aw, but I like holding the horse.
I'll undo my terribly drawn quick hands.
Doing it. All right. So they unfortunately have a sort of sad story in this thing. So took 6 hours over the course of a week to do this charcoal, which is really cool, and it's reminiscent of a Rembrandt. Very cool. And now that they're back from their 8 weeks long travel, they can finally do some real pieces. I'm looking for critique on pony poses. I need my ponies to have human poses, and I'm pretty sure I failed trying to make them look natural. I would also like critique on my background and charcoal work. If you want to / other subs don't like fan art, I really like this medium and plan to make many pieces with it. I also realize my lighting is super whack, and I need help figuring that out. I used a collage of references. One of them is obvious. I found that Pinterest is a great source for pony skeletons and poses and other things. The background work was just me too. My parents found out I'm a brony, and they have a teeny problem with their teenage boy drawing weirdo pony princesses. So I guess this is a bit of grand finale of Pony for me, but I'm still going to be watching the show, but in secret, I guess. Hopefully I'll stick around here. Hope you like my picture. Hey, don't stop drawing horses just because your parents think it's weird. It's not weird. It's just pictures. Like, grow up, parents.
Your art. Also, I'm sorry. What Reddits don't like subreddit? Don't like fan art? They're not our friends.
It's seriously. You might be getting like that. Oh, this is weird thing off of them. Just ignore it. Keep doing this. This is going to be your life. Anything you do, someone's going to find weird. Just ignore them.
There will be someone who finds it weird, whether that's someone who is close to you or not. And I mean, everyone gets like weird looks from their family. I definitely got weird looks from my parents when I had like my first pony plushie, and now I've got a bed full of them, and they're just used to it. Like,
Listen,
push forward.
Yeah, they lower their expectations. No.
Listen, I'm a girl and I got made fun of for liking My Little Pony. People are gonna do it. It's but do what makes you happy.
Yeah, the world will have all kinds of expectations for you that are stupid and unwise. So just listen to what makes you happy.
In the ever immortal words of Rainbow Dash, be awesome.
Also, I do love the idea of this piece. I love like what you're trying to do with this. I love that everything sort of feels like a traditional painting.
Yeah, absolutely.
It feels very like sort of esoteric, if that's the right word.
I have no clue if that's the right word.
I don't know. Like everything's kind of like abstract, so it feels very soft and very like you can imagine this being like a historical picture in the background of an MLP episode.
No, esoteric is very much the wrong word for that.
Tried.
Anyway.
But on to the picture itself. That we were talking about. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah.
I love the style of the feel. It feels very old school. As for the posing, I don't know if I can quite give you critique. I can see some of the poses. I think
the poses are a bit hard to make out with how
my general my general consensus personally is that if you're going to be working with this medium, I know it's super messy. Charcoal is fun that way. You can do gesture sketching with it. If you haven't done any gesture sketching, I highly recommend it with charcoal. It's just fun and messy. But you're going to probably want to learn about cleaning and having edges with charcoal. And that's going to start to get difficult, but it will help immensely when you want to focus on stuff like posing and really developing like a character's form.
Yeah.
It's easy to overwork charcoal. You can easily put too much and then it gets smudged around and you kind of lose the sharpness of any edge.
You can get sharp edges with charcoal.
Yes.
Usually you can't do it with the blocks or even the little shaped wedges things that they do, the colored little
the little
things. They have pencils that form a very sharp tip because you have to keep sharpening them, and basically you just roll them around and you build up a tip on them. That's the only way I've ever managed to get a crisp, sharp edge with charcoal. I'm sure
you can do it. You can also use sandpaper. Sandpaper works really well to get an edge.
Oh yeah, you roll the thing on. Yeah, you use sandpaper to remove the charcoal, right? Out of your. Yeah. Yeah.
No, not wait. Did you say from the? Because I'm talking about making a tip with charcoal.
Yeah.
Like
Not
with it.
not yeah. So
Okay.
building a tip out of it.
Well, there is a method to literally take X-Acto razors and cut what you don't want in your picture anymore. Like you like do surgery on the piece of paper and cut off like a layer of paper. Anyway,
Ooh.
it's a thing. And whenever you're doing this, have tissues with you. Have like blow your nose tissues. They come in so handy with charcoal, with either smudging things or just keeping your palm from smudging things.
Yeah, keep your hand clean so you don't go, I'm gonna pick this up now. Whoops, huge,
Yeah.
massive thumbprint. We'll just pretend that a meteor was coming in from the sky, you know? I mean, I used to get that with them. I would, with sketching, sometimes I would do like the smudging the graphite, which I no one told me about. I just discovered doing it, and I was like, this is great. That this is genius. I love doing this, and I'm gonna make my art super smooth now. And then like sometimes you get like the super like you'd always have like your fingers look like a statue's finger, like right on the tip, where like it just looked like your fingertips have been petrified. And then like you go to touch like the wrong part of the picture, and it just like all comes off onto it. It's like, oh dang.
So you're talking about trying to get human anatomy out of horses. One is not the other, unfortunately.
Yeah.
You can do human-ish poses, but you're going to have a problem with their front legs only point forward, really, and their hip is very much not a human hip. It doesn't flex in the same way, and their legs...
It's just I mean, like they stretch it in the show, but like they are creatures designed to stand on four legs and have a particular bone structure to suit that. And you can like twist the anatomy a little bit, but if you're gonna go full human pose, like either it's just not gonna look right, or you need to go like anthro, because
Yeah, I was about to say.
the best way though is to adapt the poses and think, what am I trying to interpret here, and put it in a style that befits four-legged creatures.
Right.
Yeah, anthropomorphic is probably the way to go
Anthropomorphic.
if you want human-like poses.
You either go full furry or only... No.
Someone get the chart.
So yeah, like anthropomorphic means to be human-like. So it is, in this case, is very accurate. It's like taking these animal-like characters and giving them human proportions so that it works with the human poses.
So how
Otherwise-
can you better reference this? Go to other artists. They're going to be your best source. Furfinity, DeviantArt, Derpy Burrow. They're going to be the most loaded of all of these. Hop on them. Maybe throw your filter on.
Just to be safe, I don't know what you want to see or not.
And browse. Go build up a collection of how you like to see the anatomy work. There are a lot of different style. Like you have Cookies. The person who did that Berry Punch pictures where they had the great outline of how to do anatomy. We used to have it up on our subreddit. It was so good. And then they deleted it. It was Crooked Scoon.
Oh, wait, is that the one with... Never mind. I'm thinking of the horse Pinkie Pie and the regular... Or are you talking about more anthro-anatomy?
It was the anthro-anatomy, and it was... They used to do Ask Berry Punch.
I think I might have seen that.
Anyway, I'm not going to spend the time searching for it. It was on our subreddit. They deleted the picture. I think someone's reposted it on Derpy Burrow. Maybe. They might be one of those names
Cross
that are...
fingers. It could be found on Reddit Archive because they have the Immigrant bot.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, go search for the references like that and build up your library. It already looks like you're very good at referencing source materials, seeing as this picture is what it is. So build off of that knowledge. And don't be afraid to work on smaller images. What I mean by smaller images is not 30 horses on a single picture.
Yeah.
Single characters, build up, even T-poses. Build up your library for you. And then work out from there. Also, Gallen's being very adorable right now.
Aww.
In the Aggie.
And that's my
Oh,
suggestion.
in the Discord.
Anyone else got any pointers, tips?
I honestly... have fun with this medium and don't let anyone... If you want to do this, because about... you know, you're going to be sticking to this. I hope you do if you're having fun with it. It doesn't matter what medium you do, digital, charcoal, painting, sculpting, crocheting, writing, I don't know, freestyle rap. Have fun with it. That's what art is. Have fun.
Freestyle crocheting. Got it.
Listen, I've seen somewhere, I think Finland, of course, they have like a heavy metal crocheting contest where you're supposed to crochet and perform heavy metal.
I love it.
Yeah. So,
The world needs
The
this.
world is weird and I love it.
Come a
which
long
is
way.
why you should just enjoy what you enjoy, because everyone's trying to.
I love talking about this while looking at like a sort of a picture of a very like refined historical scene. And
Renaissance era art.
yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next one. Oh yes, there are more.
Is this our last one?
Oh, I don't know. I can check. With the power of zooming out. Oh yeah, it is actually. Unless if anyone else has any art they'd like to submit. Any
I
other
was hoping you
questions they'd
made
like
that
to
today.
ask? So this one is by Supermarine Spitfire. We all know them. They post on
Yeah.
our subreddit.
This is a departure for their usual style, I think, if I
Mhm.
remember rightly.
So first complete drawing in about 2 weeks. Is there any noticeable improvement or decline? Noticeable improvement, yeah. We've critiqued your other pictures. This is an improvement. You have better anatomy overall. Like this
Why
is
did my color become green?
very close to show. There's a few things that are falling off. Tail, weird cheek, missing foot. Also, apparently I should watch this latest episode because this is the third time I've seen this picture redone by someone. And
The animation for this latest episode, they had fun.
Yeah,
had some
I
fun.
loved it. The faces were so good.
Yay, ponies. I mean,
I want to make a collage of all of
We know what you're doing after this.
oh, it's not up there. They only have episode 16. What punks?
How dare they not update things
Torrents
very
to
fast? Well, LD gets his sailing ship out of the garage. We're gonna go back to this picture. But yeah, I definitely want to make like a collage out of all of the faces in the episode. It was just so great. It was cute. Anywho, I'm trying to look at this. Pose anatomy. Good. Let's make sure to get
Where's
these
my
balanced
episode,
hooves
bro?
and not make the hooves too small. The front hooves were in the original picture much smaller than the back hooves. So just balance those. There we go. I mean, use the if this is copied from last week's episode, like use that as reference. Like put it up next to your picture. If you have to like get up on your phone or print it out or something, just get it, or just whatever you need to do, put it up on your computer and get to drawing and just look back and forth between how stuff is meant to go. You don't need to like fully trace something to be able to understand like how it's broken down and everything. It's just a case of allowing yourself a chance to really analyze things. Because I always remember like one of my earliest pictures. It's always like why I'm what I remember when I'm thinking about like references. I remember I tried to draw a picture of Pinky, and it was like really not very good. I was like, I know how to draw ponies and I know how to draw a Pinky, and it like didn't come out very well at all. Like she just didn't look right because I was making guesses based on memory. And then like I got an actual picture from the show, like show style vector, and put it next to my picture, and I like looked specifically at each curve. Like, okay, this is how the leg curves here, and this is how. And I don't think it was an exact pose. I think I made up the pose, and I found a reference just sort of close enough. I was like, okay, this is how like the main, like the actual curls in the main go, and you know that's what you do with this as well. I'd be like, okay, Rainbow Dash's main, how exactly do the shapes go? And you've got it pretty close. It's that sort of thing where it's like, okay, let's look at how like the body pose works, like where pieces of the anatomy fall and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot you can do, especially if you're like working on doing redraws from the show. You can do some self-critique, which is super helpful. You pretty much look at the two, you put your finished drawing and the thing that you were
Hmm.
practicing from next to each other, and you look at it and it takes some self-analysis, but it's like, what about my picture does not look like the picture I was copying? And you kind of poke into specifics. It's like, oh, this picture, my leg looks funny because I didn't overlap it the same way they overlapped, certain lines in the image, or, the size or direction is off. And, self
Oh, there's a dog
critiquing
barking.
is going to help you grow, very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very, very helpful. Don't forget to give her mane some nice floofy volume to it too. It's surprisingly easy to be like, I know how this character's mane goes, right? It's like, it's not hard. Of course I can figure that out. Like, I know what it looks like. And you go into it and just every simple thing, like which direction does like a particular curve go in and stuff. Like, for ages I was, oh, no, that's, she saw an anime character with her top off. No. For ages I was drawing Rainbow's mane. If I just do like a quick scribble, I was doing it more like Applejacks, like, oh, that's how her mane goes, right? Like this. Why does that not look right? And then like I realized it goes the other way. Like it's just simple stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I think you probably were using reference. What I was sort of more saying is like, just like in terms of the body, like look at what they've got in the vector and look at how to translate that. Damn. I know this is not only off of your drawing, but out of the photo entirely, off the table, but it at least helps to sort of look at how something might continue.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, perfect. I hope that gives you an idea.
As always, though, good work, Supermarine Spitfire. We're glad to see you. Always doing art, and you're gonna get the more you do this stuff, and like we've been seeing you post a lot. It's just the easier it's gonna get, and then it might get a little harder again because you'll have more stuff to learn. But then
Yeah.
that's gonna get easier.
Yeah, art is constantly getting easier and harder. It's like a thing. It's actually a pattern psychologically.
Yeah. The better you get, then the harder it gets, and the better you
Yeah,
get, then the harder
it's
it
because
gets.
it's a leapfrogging of skill with drawing and your analytical eye improving.
Mm.
So it's like perception versus what you're actually doing, constantly leapfrogging each other. But even so, like even outside of that, it's just a case of like as you learn more, like art never gets easier. In fact, it gets harder, but you get more equipped to handle it, if that makes sense. So like you're constantly taking on more and more. Like I can look at what I'm doing and saying I'm just as like struggling as I used to be like many years ago. Like I remember all these times of like drawing and everything, and remember how much I was struggling with it, and feel like I'm struggling just as much now, or maybe even more, even though I know that's not true. But if I went back and tried to redraw the same things, or if I tried to draw them from memory, it would probably be more accurate. If I was like had it next to me and was redrawing it, it'd be way too easy. But if I was just drawing them again from memory and then I compared them, like obviously it's going to be much better now. But it's just a case of like I'm tackling bigger challenges in my art from like they're self-set challenges. I'm constantly trying to improve, and constantly trying to improve means going after bigger and bigger like challenges with art.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you get better as you go and get more equipped to handle those.
Spoken like a true
Brock, brock,
artist.
brock, brock.
Sorry, there's a dog that decides to bark.
The art dog.
The art dog.
The art dog, it barks for you.
It's starting to say poetic.
All right. Anyone else have any art they'd like to critique? Any other questions they'd like to ask? As a reminder, there is still an Aggie going. I believe there's a pony that is riled up on cookies hopping around.
I
Like
wonder
they
who that
should
is.
Cookie's good. Cookie's great.
It's cute, OC. All right. Well, if there's nothing else, let's call it a day. Thank you all for coming, and don't forget critique other artists, man. That's what the
You can do
subreddit's
it.
there for. You don't need hard-hitting 2-hour tangents of critique. A few points of improvement and why those things need to be changed. Not just saying, I don't like the muzzle. Saying why or how they can improve it and what they can work on next time. Good
Just stuff like the horn feels off to me. I think maybe it could be at a different angle or something, and just give pointers. But, like, any critique helps, and also
Exactly.
like it helps us a lot if possible, if you're able to make it for the stream, then we can have much more like one-on-one direct help for you. But I understand not everyone can make the stream depending on time zones and things, so it's understandable.
All right.
Art.
Well, thank you, and we'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.